All right. I have a few different batches that I have in mind. I'm roasting for the shop. Today's Thursday, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm open today.
Open today, yeah.
And but then I have some batches for TJ I got to roast. I got some Guatemalas. He brings these Guatemalas right from, because he's always down there. So he'll come up and bring back like bags of Guatemala. But he'll have different versions of what the bags are. So like, I always like when they're like this, because they're like, look at this sticker even. It's like you can just tell this is not coming from America. Like, look at that. Yeah. It's just like,
yeah.
Everything about this. I don't know what, it's like the tone or the paper texture of it is like, so
well, it feels more substantial.
Yeah.
Like it feels like not Americans.
Not American. I know.
Like it's not going to bust open.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll roast, I want to roast some TJ coffee, some Guatemala. This stuff is right from Antigua. And then I got some.
This is for this afternoon.
This stuff he'll pick up. Yeah, he'll pick this stuff up today. But then I'm going to roast some of our coffee. I want to do a couple low temp roasts. I have a Burundi and a Guatemala. So we're drinking the Guatemala right now. And yeah, where's my cup anyways? I think I put it over there. I have this Guatemala, and then so I'm going to roast some more of this stuff. So we have our own Guatemala. Like TJ and I went on a trip. TJ and I went on a trip to Guatemala a couple years ago, where it was like 6 days long, 5-6 days. Yeah, it was probably 6 days long. We went to 5 different farms, like just went all over. And I mean, we hit the ground running. We like landed at the airport, went to like his friends. So he used to live in Guatemala for a couple of years. He's been running for like, I don't know, 15 years or something. 17 years, some super long.
He's been running?
He's been running this.
Back and forth. Okay.
He's been running this program where he's like bringing literature down there. Okay. So he has like all of and distributes literature all through Guatemala, but he goes all over Central and South America. So he has all these connections in Guatemala. He used to live there. So we show up, we go to his friend's, another expat's house, who kind of runs an Airbnb sort of a thing. So we go up, it's like, you know, those super narrow stacked houses with like a gate out front. It's like your garage door is like the gate, your entrance level to the home is your garage. And then you go up and then it's just like 4 or 5 levels. There's so many levels. So you like truck all the way up to the very top level. We just dropped their stuff off and they're like, all right, let's go. And then we just drove to Antigua, went to this farm, which is like, I mean, it is a coffee farm, but it's almost more like a mill. They must have their own farm up in the hills a little bit. But this is like centralized right in Antigua. And
like first level processing of beans.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean by a mill? Like
yeah.
Beans that are right off the...
Yeah,
right from the farm.
Right from the
kind
farm.
of whatever happens.
But then they roast there too. So because kind of what you're doing is you're going from like a plant with cherries down to this like finished dried seed. So the seed, you want the seeds, seeds, you want them to be at like 9 to 11% moisture when they're ready to be roasted. You can export them. They aren't going to go bad when they have that amount of moisture. If you have higher moisture content, you're going to risk having mold. So you like hear people be like, "Oh, I don't want, the coffee. It's real bad. It's like got all these molds and all these bad things." It's like because the mill work wasn't done very well.
Okay.
So too high, like it just wasn't done well in many ways. There's many places that mill work can go bad, and one of them is your moisture content is too high, and you
before
get mold.
It gets, so this is sealed, and maybe that's part of the reason these bags feel so tight.
Yeah,
substantial.
So
they're still
which is
airtight.
Exactly.
Right?
So which is why
is caught.
Yeah. You look at all these. So if you backed up 20 years ago and you went to a roaster, none of those bags, the jute, the burlap, none of these things had a liner in them.
Well, that's funny because I see all these burlap sacks out here. I didn't know there were liners in them.
Yeah.
I mean, I see them right now, but like, I guess I just assumed that they came in the burlap sack.
And that's how it was.
Because they're dry, not 9 to 11% moisture, but like.
No, they would just, and I think that is even the same moisture content that like a soybean, like you're drying grain to 9 to 11%. Anything over that, it's going to mold. Anything under it, because the thing is, you have to have moisture in order to roast it, because that's how you're transferring heat. So the bean has moisture, the water is heating up, which then heats up the water next to it, and it heats, and then it gets to a certain point, H2O rips apart, you hear an audible crack, and then now it's soluble in water, and now you're into like the development of the development phase of the roast, which then has so much to do with your flavor.
So go back a little bit to the mill, or kind of the process.
So I'm in Antigua. Yeah, so like Antigua, and they have this mill that's right in the middle of Antigua, and they do mill work there. They have like it sort of feels like a hobby farm. Like it's probably just really oriented towards like agritourism, But there's plants, there's a field, but then like you go and they have a big drying patio. They have, because that's how it works. So you got all this, you have to go from red ripe cherries down to a dried seed. So you have to first pulp everything. So you have to take your cherry and put it through some sort of like, you're mashing up the fruit. So it's a barrel.
To get rid of it.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's a waste product in coffee. Like the actual fruit mucilage and skin of the cherry
doesn't get put to any purpose.
Yeah. So a coffee cherry has like a very little amount of fruit. So you aren't like popping them. It's not like a Rainier cherry where you're like, oh, this is like, it's juicy and delicious. It's got a super thick skin, and then like it's tough, it's substantive, like the skin itself.
Sweet, bitter,
really, yeah.
Tastes like coffee. I mean, what's the taste?
Yeah, it tastes like fruit. So like it is fruity, but and when you have them really nice and ripe, they are sweet. There's some juiciness to it. But like once you get under that skin, there's just not much like fruit there. Okay. And in one cherry, you have generally two, but you have two seeds facing each other inside, 2 to 3 seeds inside of that cherry. But each seed is wrapped in parchment. So and I have some right here. So you have like, so this is exactly what comes out of a cherry. This is from Guatemala. You have a green coffee seed, and then it has this parchment layer. So you're getting down to the seed in there.
Not unlike peanuts that have that kind of parchment layer.
I always hate it when coffee gets compared to peanuts, because they roast it and people are like, oh, it's like peanuts, and I don't know what. No, popcorn. It's a lot like it in that like. But do peanuts have a fruit on the outside? They have a shell.
They have a shell, but I just mean this kind of what you're calling parchment is this kind of layer that I wish weren't there.
We need to get rid of. Get rid of that little the skin where you're like, what is this flaky chaff?
Yeah. The texture isn't good. The flavor.
You don't want it. It's like it's stuck to your lip. So.
Okay, so you
have a cherry.
These are put together.
You have to go through what's called the wet mill, which is you're breaking up the cherry to get to this stuff here. Then this has to dry.
Yeah.
And then this goes into like 100 kilogram sacks, and the farmer has like has a big bag. It has all his or her dried parchment is in this thing. It's 100 kilograms, and that is the most stable form that coffee ever is in parchment, dried. But to get here, you have to wash it. You have to throw it through a pulper where it mashes up the fruit, kicks out the skins, all the parchment, the seeds then go somewhere. But they're all sticky, they're full of fruit mucilage. You either put them to a huge vat of water and let them soak for a couple days. They kind of ferment in there, they wash, this is called washed process. And then you wash the parchment out and then you put it in the sun and you let it dry. The other way to do it is you
dump chemicals.
A lot of chemicals. This is mini chemicals, random ones, like
speed up this process.
Stolen crossbones. Yeah. Glug, 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 glug. It drives them really fast though, so it's sweet. So
is that for real? The chemical?
No.
Okay.
It's kind of like wash process is you're fermenting in water. The fruit mucilage gets off of it. You can when you feel the beans, you can tell, or the parchment within the tank, you can tell when it's cleaned off. Cool. Rinse it off, throw it out in the sun, rake it, let it dry for a week or whatever. Or you've pulped it, you have all of the fruit mucilage covered parchment, and then you put that directly out into the sun and you let it dry and it gets super sticky. That's called honey process. Or you take the fruit mucilage covered parchment and you put it in a tank and you then create an environment, a fermentation environment. Like you introduce things to it, certain yeasts, like champagne yeast or different things. And you starve it of oxygen, anaerobic process coffee. And the anaerobic process coffee, because you're leaving that mucilage on the parchment, you're going to have, it's a honey process or anaerobic process, you're going to have a fruitier, it's fermented, so it's complex and it's fruity. Yeah. And it's getting imparted to the seed. When you do anaerobic process, people add things into that tank. So add fruit to it or add certain yeast to it to control the fermentation, to control the presentation of the fermented fruity flavors.
And so it is flavor. The goal is to produce a certain kind of flavor, not just to dry the bean or the seed out.
That's very well said. And the point is to make it as fruity as possible.
Yeah.
You're not going for chocolate when you're doing that. You are like, I want this to be a fruit bomb.
Yeah.
And anaerobic processes, but they can taste really boozy too. Like it can, you're drinking it, you're just like, wow, this is fruity, but it's like boozy. It has this strong fermentation to it, I
can't say that I've ever had a cup of coffee where I've felt that, so I don't feel like I've ever had.
It is rare. They're hard to find in terms of like as a consumer, you really have to go seek that out. You aren't going to just like stumble across a anaerobic process. But it's a pretty, like George Howell, who is like icon, like coffee icon guy, he really didn't like any of these. The other option for millwork is natural process coffee. So you don't pulp it at all. You have the cherry and the parchment, the seed inside of it, and you just put it out in the sun.
Let that
dry it. Okay.
What, it just falls off?
Yeah, it just dries like a raisin, and then you dry mill it off, and but that is another fermentation, fruity, like very fruit forward coffee. Well, so like George Howell does not, he I'm sure he does now, but at the beginning he was like, this is flavored coffee. I don't want flavored coffee. I want coffee. And it was like a negative thing. Well then, and this is probably 15 years ago, then like third wave coffee comes in and is like all about the fruitiest presentation of coffee, and people in the industry have been going towards that and like chasing that fruity coffee thing, and that's how we got ourselves to the spot of like anaerobic process,
to just leverage all these levers to
fruity
just
flavors
extract fruit. It's like hops with beer. I feel like same thing. It's like at some point 20 years ago,
identical movement. It's like it's like a brother to the hops movement.
Yeah, interesting.
No, but like you're saying with the breweries, they're just like hops.
You can't. Everyone's outdoing each other with the level of hops to the point where it's like, can't we just
back it off?
Reset. we're like this, quadruple hops, and
Yeah, right.
we're just dumping hops into the finished product. Just can we go back to, or why has this become the standard?
Yeah. Why is the norm
Yeah.
to just have like the strongest bitter?
Right.
Which, like, the thing that I like about like our generation's movement within coffee and beer is I like that we embrace bitterness. I like that. I think there's like a quality to that I respect, and I'm like, good work. Way to not just go all in towards sweet or all in towards like we welcome this edge that is, like, it's bitter, but you go, but it's not just like, not everything is just bitter. There's complexity, it's vibrant, and it's welcome, and there is bitterness that's pleasing.
I think when I come in here on Thursday afternoons or Monday mornings, as half of Waverly comes in, excited to see what is going to be available, the feeling of not actually knowing what flavor you're going to get is like half the fun. When I go elsewhere, there's zero sense of anticipation about what the experience is going to be like. And it's both exhilarating because it's like, well, what is this? But it's also then immediately frustrating because I'm like, I can't actually identify the flavors. You're like, well, see, it's like an apricot. And I'm always like, okay, I'm not really like, apricot's not the first thing that comes to my mind, but I don't know what does. But it's like this flavor profile that is like beyond description. If I don't have the neural pathways to be like, it's like apricot.
I love that. Thank you. Because it's funny because this is just coffee. Like, what we're tasting is coffee. And it's beautiful, and it is so delicious. And there's something inherently problematic about trying to be like, it's apricot. It's like, no, it's coffee. Like, no, it's raspberries. No, it's not. It's not. It's not raspberries.
Even like the chocolate. Sometimes like, okay, maybe this.
I know.
These like first level ones are like, okay, I can taste the chocolate here.
Like, or what's really tricky is fruitiness. People have begun to, now they're saying that that's sweet. Like, oh, can you taste that it's sweet? And it's like, as for my brain and my context within coffee, sweetness is chocolate, molasses, honey, caramel. Like, when I am saying this is a sweet coffee, I am not saying sweet like a fruit leather. A fruit leather isn't sweet to me. It's fruity. You're going, is it citrus? Is it malic? Is it stone fruit?
But see, people like you have the ability, like you have curated an ability to distinguish between these very nuanced layers of flavor in the way that artists can distinguish between 80 different kinds of green. Whereas like I've got like 6 kinds of greens that I can really distinguish. And then beyond that, it's like, I don't really...
I'm like, I have 6 colors. I'm like, is it purple? That one's purple.
Well, okay, I can go beyond. Like a 4-year-old has 6 colors.
That's where I'm at.
I've got like 100 colors. You've got like 1,000 flavors that you're able to kind of... Here's this one that's kind of here. Can't you see? Can't you taste that? And I'm like, I don't know.
But the experience of it being frustrating, I think, is so for real. And I think I have people who are just like, I don't taste that. I don't taste the notes.
When it's like wine.
Everyone
does this with wine. It feels like a power play. Like the plum undertones are there, and it's like, well, I can't actually honestly say that I can taste.
I agree, and that's where I'm I just feel like it's a bit problematic because you're immediately separating. You're taking the experience and you're cutting it into either you experience these flavors or you don't. If you don't, you're kind of like, what am I do? Is there something wrong with me? Is this guy full of it? Like, is it just he's making it up?
Like
you're just like, what's going on? And that's where I'm like, okay, I want to take my experience and my perspective and go out and find coffees that I am like super impressed by. I drink this thing, I'm like, dude, this is like, well, what does it taste like? Why is it so good? It's just like, I don't want to sit here and be like, it's Meyer lemon and candied ginger. It's like, somebody that tastes like, no. But what I know is I love this, and I want to roast it to bring out these flavors that I know are here and put it on the table for you and be like, come in here and try it. And the other thing that you're saying about like, you come in here and you know this is going to be different. I'm going to come in here this Thursday. I'm going to drink what he has brewed, and I know it's going to be different.
Exactly.
That is the
it.
goal. That is the absolute goal for me. This is why I do finish roast temperature, why the temperature always changes, why I'm roasting in this specific way is because coffee is always changing. And instead of trying to do what everybody else is doing, which is smash it down and make it consistent, which is false, okay? It's just it's not how coffee works, dude. You can't, coffee isn't consistent. But you can manipulate the material in a way that will present to a person who you say it's consistent, that they will accept within their own parameters of like their own spec of like true or false. Like, yes, this is consistent. But when you go into any of these chains or whatever, there's no mystery. You aren't like, I am going to go in and discover this new...
No, it's the comfort of, what it is at a chain or like the church coffee I had last night. It's like this kind of burst of hot. It's like a hot, wet burst. That there's a comfort in that. In the same that like a cold glass of ice water is like a cold burst of like for freshness. But it's one dimensional. It hits one spot. And it's nice for it to hit that one spot over and over. But this is not that.
No, it's
there's a comfort to it, but not because you're getting the same one note.
It's a totally different engagement around the thing, though. It's like saying, do you want to just have, because in my mind, what I feel like I'm interacting with is so it's culture, but it's also like consciousness. What do people have in their consciousness around coffee? And the public, the group, collective consciousness around coffee is sort of like this very vague coffeeness. It's roasty, it's dark, it doesn't taste very good, but it's hot, and you're kind of, it's just what you're saying. You're just like this punch of like hot brown, like you're just like, all right, great. But there's something about that is super important, and that's that in our head we have an idea of what coffee is. We have an idea of what coffee should be, and we're like
willing to accept it and not expand it. We've accepted it, we're fine with it, we drink a ton of it, and it's kind of like that's fine. But people do that with everything we consume.
Dude, absolutely.
You have like the cheapest milk you can get at the store that comes from a long ways away, and then you go to an actual dairy, and you have the butter and the yogurt and the milk that's produced at the dairy, and it is like, I didn't even know dairy
tastes so
had dimension.
Could taste so good. That has this. That there's any dimension. All I know is homogenized, pasteurized skim milk. That's been rehydrated from China, you know what I mean? So it is. So on the consumption side of things, where you're like, this is why I love coffee. And I was talking to somebody recently about what it is that I love about coffee. Like, what is it that you love about coffee? And I'm like, it probably sounds super corny or something, but like, the daily practice of coffee, of like being present to this thing at the beginning of my day or through my day, but like, let's just take it we're at the beginning of our day. I'm like making a thing. I'm being present to the process of making it.
And people who are not coffee roasters can kind of get that, because they're like, I have that experience in the morning. Like I have my way of making coffee.
And I think that this, whatever it is that I'm talking about, is not a roaster activity. It's a coffee drinker activity. And this is what I love about it. And the activity of roasting, activity of being at home, brewing coffee, making a thing, first thing, making it, and then like being present to it and trying to like, I don't know, understand it, trying to be present to what the experience is. That to me is like positive as a human. Like I'm like, I am being formed in a good way when I do this activity. Well, what was so funny is like when I was working at a big coffee company, and we're like, we're doing we would have these 2 meetings a month, the first and third Wednesday, and all the corporate people were all together sitting at a table going around, and like we're supposed to, they do like the thing where it's like, okay, let's go around and share, like share ridiculous. It's just like such hilarious corporate. It's like from a show. You're like, this is real? We really do this, Well, like, this time they're like, let's just go around and say what we like about coffee. So it's just like, this is great, and everybody's like saying these things that, whatever, they're like very, very normal coffee things. So then I say whatever, some version of what I just said to you. I'm like, I just think that like I'm being formed in a way when I'm drinking. People are just like, what are you talking about, dude? I'm like, no, like I'm becoming a better person. They're just like, what are you? No, like be present to the cup and you get to see there. We're just like, all right, anyways, Jim, what about you? No. And this is like to go to the point of saying, how are we engaging with this thing? And you can just be like, lop off all the nuance, take all these lots, every coffee that I have here, mix it up into one pile, scoop it out, roast the same every single time, brew it, and just be like, I am shutting off any senses.
Well, you're becoming a machine who has eliminated all kind of dimension and creativity, and now you're just performing a task that a machine could perform.
Yes, dude. The machine part of it is so important because you're literally getting rid of all the stuff that as a human you are experiencing as the drinker. Because I'm not trying to pay any attention as a human to what I'm consuming. I'm not paying attention. I'm just like drinking, okay? And what it is to be human behind a roaster. Because like standing behind this thing and doing this activity, I could hand the whole thing over to a machine and just be like, I'm not present. And this is the same for me as when I'm drinking. When I'm drinking it as to when I'm roasting it is like, I don't know, like if there's an engagement with what's happening here that is, my senses are turned on. I am receiving communication through my measurements, and I am attempting to become better at this. And this is what's funny, and like I don't even know how do you engage with it, because the second that you start talking about like energy or like non-measurable, I'm not talking about the temperature, I'm talking about the energy. It is like,
well, it's a little bit like when you're talking about a coffee that you can taste the apricot, right? And it's like, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
About your energy and how you are being informed by the process, but I haven't actually experienced that. What is much more typical is, you go into a gas station, you press a button of a coffee cup of a particular size, and you just wait for the machine to snap it out, and you're on your way, and there's actually, the humanness has been totally eliminated to the point where people actually don't know what you're talking about.
But that's like literally what kills me. That is literally, that just is like, I think that for whatever reason, coffee, and like I'm on my own path as a human, like seeking, trying to find, moving, doing this, and like coffee is coffee, and I have no interest in coffee. I'm barely even drink. I wasn't drinking it. I was anti-coffee forever, and then I started kind of drinking it. But then there was this moment where it's like, boom, paths converge, and I am on the coffee path. Yeah. And there's something about coffee for me as a drinker in that morning ritual. But for me, I was in the wilderness, you know, and like making it over the fire and like working outside with all these, you know, kids and youth and whatever, and like guiding trips and being a wilderness staff. That like that morning ritual around the fire by myself having coffee was like it saved me. It was just the peak of my day, especially like in the wintertime. And you're like up to your waist in snow, and it's negative 24 degrees out. It's so brutal. And you get the fire going back up, and you're warming everybody's boots up. And you know, I had this little, we'd use these fuel canisters and stick them on the fire with water in them to heat it up. And you sit out there, and you're like huddled up and just like getting the fire going and heating up your water, like hand grinding beans. It's like magic, dude. Like that, but it's so human. It's so like connected to what is real, what is happening, being present to the moment. And coffee is so there for that. Mm-hmm. It can be the thing that's in the canister or received from the button, or gets just a machine cranks it out. But there's this whole other side to it that's like, I guess I don't know. I mean, I don't actually think that saying spiritual, I don't think connotes what it is but that is the closest word we have in our lexicon to be able to be like, you know, that other side of things, you know, that side of things that can't be measured, like apricot in the cup. You're like, can I measure apricot? How much apricot is it? Well, there's actually zero apricot. But it's there. There is a thing that is happening that is the part that I'm after, that is not measurable. And I can, if I say spiritual, you know, it's sort of like religious or kind of like guru-ish, that I'm like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. You could be like energy, which is, I think, probably like, if I'm just talking about the actual roasting, transferring of energy to this raw material to make it roasted, I think totally applicable and true. But there is this part which is so human, as in, or specifically, that we're being formed all the time, always being formed by what we do. And this thing, coffee, for me, has just been this like massive formation, like to be formed, to be present, to be doing and being a human, doing this activity has informed my life and makes me be aware of things which are not measurable in a practiced way. Like, and this is where it's different for me than when I'm like, do pottery or do any other type of art. I'm trying to think about music. You know, it's sort of like music.
I keep thinking about music, because I think most people, all walks of life, have an experience with music of the sort that you're talking about with coffee. Few people have this experience with coffee, but if you talk about music in the same way, like you kind of can't. What you think about and feel in music when you're listening to something you love is not the chord progression. I mean, you can think about the chord progression if you want to.
Yeah, but there's another
thing. You watch a YouTube video on the chord progression, or the bar, how they're the time stamp and everything. Like, it's this overall kind of experience that you have with it that kind of can't be reduced to its component parts. It's like the whole, and how you feel when you experience it is so much more valuable than you know, if it's in 4/4 time and the chord progression is this. That like, once you start doing that, you lose the sublime.
Yeah, dude. I mean, whatever you're saying right there is it. It's you're sort of like, you're able to grab a hold of this thing which is here right now. We can't see it. You can only sense it, and you can kind of like scoop it and grab it and like tie it up. But the second you start pulling all the pieces out and being like, here are all of the pieces, you're like, well, where's the thing? Like, where's the thing that we had scooped up in this net a second ago? It's here when we have the entirety of the experience. But the second that I start saying, I'm going to take the parts out, I can't find the thing, and I can't account for it. I'm like, well, all the pieces are here, but I don't see the thing. I mean, and this is like, when people engage with roasting only in a measuring scientific way, you will not find the thing. You won't find the energy. You won't find the part of it that I am telling you is here right now. I promise you it's here. But when I put it into a framework of like, you know, I don't know, a computer with a graph with like time and temperature. No, but I'm measuring it. I have a magnihelic, and
that's the irony of it, is that when I walked in this morning, you had a big old wrench, you know, like you're a farmer
working on my tractor,
ready, and something's cranking behind the scenes, and you look at the machine, and the machine has like, it needs oil and these very like rudimentary things.
Like we have to grease the gears, like the bearings have to have grease.
Right. And there's metal, you know, this is not super high tech.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful machine, but it's very low tech, and it has instruments that look like they could have been on the Titanic. You know, like the way you're moving the flume,
the lever.
It makes it creaks, and like somehow through this very low tech process, you're able to create something that allows people to have this experience, this kind of unspeakable experience.
Yeah, and how is it? Why is coffee so magical that whatever? Because there's a thing that's occurring here. Okay, while we're roasting it, there's a thing that's occurring in this, which I am telling you as the participant in this activity is here. It's going to now turn into a brewable beverage, and somehow that magical energy makes its way to the cup. You will take it home with you. When you have that bag and you go home and you brew it and you have it, it's like, it is a house for the energy that this is like, to me, what is truly magical about coffee, and is to me this like, I hold it up and I'm just so grateful for this aspect of coffee, that it holds the energy that it would like through which it was made. So when you have that gas station coffee and the path that coffee took, and the people's hands that it took, and the intention and the energy behind all of those people to get to that spot, to be in that coffee, you push the button and it's like, you know, and you're like drinking it. And people are like, I don't know, I don't think I like coffee. I always feel really bad, like my stomach. It's like, yeah, dude, this is bad energy, man. Like, you are drinking, it's holding energy. All it is this house for the energy that was made behind it. And I am not trying to be critical of the individuals in the chain, but I am saying that chain has an energy behind it. What was the energy? I don't know, absolute convenience, cheap, quick, easy, profit, like no, all machines, no heat, like that thing has its own energy. And I guarantee you people weren't treated well. I can guarantee you that. That farmer wasn't treated well. The millers were not taken care of. The buyers and the traders, it's the most cutthroat part of the deal. And then it gets to a roaster. The roaster is just simply like throwing it into an automated machine. The actual physical human being has big headphones because it's so damn loud in this warehouse full of, like, it's a cinder block warehouse. They're 50 feet from the machine. They push the button. They just watch. You just drop it. It gets conveyed up over here. It's ground. It's put in a pack. Like, it's so detached. And when you drink that coffee, you're like, man, I feel really bad when I drink that coffee. It's like, yeah, dude. And there's something about this process here, which, like, I can tell you how these beans got here is through a completely different thing. We're trying to take care of the people. We're trying to tend to the practices. We're trying to be sure everybody has what they need. And I can specifically talk about like the farms that I have been to connected to the coffee that we have. Also talking with the farmers and the co-op guys. And it's just like, they love this. They love this. Like, I love this. They love what they're doing, and they love their farm, and they love their coffee plants, and they are like, I love coffee. I am trying to do the most heart-centered work towards this thing, and when I do it towards coffee, it pays off. When I do this effort that I'm doing right here towards other things that are like, I don't know, I'm not like, it doesn't yield a similar result. It doesn't, other things don't hold the energy behind it as well as coffee does, from my experience. And like, there's just something about that. It was why I love coffee, man. Like, full on, absolutely. And to bring it back to what we were talking about, like, there was a point at which my path like converged with coffee that I was just like, holy crap, dude. Like, holy crap, this is what I'm here to do. Like, this is what I want. This thing is, I'm having the interaction with the thing that I am wanting to have. I'm looking out here to find something. It's like, tennis shoes aren't doing it. Computers aren't doing it. I don't know, like watches aren't. Yeah, yeah. It's just like, these things aren't having. Now, I will say, like, there is like that sense of like, people aren't, you were saying like, you know, people aren't having the same experience that I'm having. Just like the whole apricot, you're like, I don't know, I'm not tasting apricot, you know, and I'm like, no, there's definitely apricot in this cup of coffee. There is a part to this that I'm going like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, when those beans are in the right, when roasting is going on, like, they are communicating, and I am hearing them. You know, it's like,
so here you go again.
It's like that. Yeah, I don't know, man.
Well, that's why I'm always like trying to, from my own understanding of your experience, translating it to some analogous experience that I have, or have had.
Yeah.
But I would say for most people, they can kind of make an analogy with some other facet, you know, music, or like they've produced something artistically that's like, oh yeah, that's kind of like when I do this.
Yeah.
But few people are doing that as their vocation. Like, this is not their job.
Yeah.
To have this mystical experience.
Yeah.
No, like their job is act like the opposite of that.
Yeah.
They're like kind of forced to come in and perform this labor that is not what they would say, you know, gives them life. It's not this life-giving like experience. And so that's a dimension of it too. Like, you've actually found a vocation
that I love,
you love.
And I love how it forms me. I love doing this activity. Like, I'm not trying to hand this off to an automated system. I'm not trying to. I don't want to. I want to roast the batch, you know, like. And I think like when I'm chatting with a lot of other like coffee owners, they're not like I was talking to this one guy,
like coffee shop owners. You mean,
kind of coffee business owners, like people who do, I'd say maybe a similar work. You know, they roast coffee and this and that. And like I'll talk to them and like, okay, so like do you roast it all or whatever? They're just like, oh no, I don't roast. Like, if I'm like, I hate roasting is what they'll tell me. Yeah. It's like, really? Like, hate roasting. I'm like, oh my gosh. Talk a little further, and people are just like, oh man, like, sure, I know how to roast. Sure, I can roast. But I'll tell you what, if I'm roasting, something is wrong. Something has gone wrong. It's like
you put milk in your kid's cereal in the morning. Like, well, do you like milking the cow? Well, no, I don't like milking a cow.
Wouldn't you just love it if
I
there
were
was a farmer who's having a spiritual experience every time they milk their cow? It's just like, this is going to be the best cheese. Oh, little Richie at the breakfast table is going to have the best cereal this morning. It was so ridiculous.
Hook up the stainless steel to the putter and, you know, just let it do its job.
Yeah, just the robotic milk.
Yeah.
I'm going to sleep. Oh my gosh. All right, let's take a break for old George, man. Yeah, to be able to, as a person, be like, that's an option? You know, and this goes back to the whole, like, the human thing of it all. Is that, like, we're human in all the things that we do. It's not like it's just, there's specific tasks that are human, but there are tasks that are more in tune with our humanness. Or like, you know, I heard this thing, I'll listen to like tons of different podcasts or whatever, and there's this woman who's talking about technologies, okay? And she's like saying, our technologies right now are not like compatible with the earth, like with, let's just say, nature, okay? They're outside of, non-compatible, whereas there are technologies that can be created, or ones that already exist or whatever, like not some like mystery technology somebody's hiding, but like there are ways to have technologies which are in line with nature versus outside of and separated from nature, okay? Now, for whatever, this is just what this woman's saying, but it made me think, like, to like this point of saying, like, all the things that we do are human. All the things. It's not like just this one aspect of our life. We are human. And so there are activities that we do which are more connected to the parts of reality that make us human. These parts of existence that are like in line with and harmoniously with like the things that are uniquely human. Whereas like you can have things that we do every single day which aren't in line with our humanness. You know, it's like we are acting as if humans are machines. And so this activity is treating a human like they're a machine. So when I participate in that activity, I am not being human. I'm not in touch with my humanness. Like the special magic that is human is devoid from this.
Well, and you're definitely not conscious of it or aware.
Yeah, or even
like kind of awake to it. Or
yes,
you're kind
awake
of like,
to it. Yes,
I'm a human who's experienced these things. And even saying that feels new agey, or what we used to call new agey, in a way that's like, well, what does that actually, you know, of course I'm a human all the time.
Yeah.
I don't stop being human, but my experience of being human ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
And when you awake to like a real human experience, you're aware of like, oh, you haven't been to the gym in a really long time. You kind of, your body is awakened to this like experience of being, of breathing, and the blood is flowing, and you feel great. And you're like, I feel alive. Like I got to keep doing this. How is it that I have not been doing this for 3 months?
Yes.
Or, you know, yoga, or taking walks.
Yes.
Or doing these things that kind of awaken you to these fundamental experiences of being human.
Yes. That are human. That are like, this matters. But what's crazy to me is just how much that is present when you're doing non-human activities, when like so much of our daily existence is being like squished into a box as if I'm not a human, and I do these activities, and then you jump out and you do that one activity that, okay, most of our day we're treated like we're people who don't have bodies, you know, like we don't have bodies, don't have arms, we're just like going around and like typing on a computer. But boy, this whole typing keyboard thing is in the way. It wouldn't be great if I could just think and it would like appear on the screen. Like that would be amazing. And I don't even have a body. I just sit here and I think and everything happens. Like that is like the path of like we're acting like we're not in a body. And then you have, get up and go run, go sprint 100 yards and sprint and sprint and sprint until you flop over. And like you are going to be so aware of your body. And that is a human experience because humans are in bodies, you know, like go pick up a stone and try to throw it, and pick up a stone and just try to throw it. You're like, I have arms, and like these matter, like this. And that awakening to activities which are connected to the very things. What does it mean to be a human? I'm like, dude, it is like, it'll change you, like.
Have you seen the commercials for, it's usually like late at night when old people like me or people who are older than me, and they'll have a product that simulates walking. So it's kind of like your feet are, they probably have this for people who are of working age, who are at a desk all day. It kind of moves your feet, and it shows you the extent to which it simulates actual walking and shows how your joints, your ankle and knee joints are having this beneficial movement. But you don't actually need to do anything other than set your feet on this machine that simulates walking. That's like an example of
amazing, dude.
Taking away
the human is like, it's like, no, the part of walking is not just that joints are being manipulated. Like, there's a whole other thing happening when you go walking. And so I just wonder, like, are there ways that whatever this woman was saying, I'm like so intrigued by. I'm like, what does it mean to have technologies that are in harmony with nature versus in discord with nature? I'm like, dude, I don't know what that means. What does that mean? That is like,
so when I've seen you do this a couple dozen times. Just sitting in the same chair. Kind of passively watching. You just dumped the bean, not dumped. You kind of pull the lever, the beans, gravity takes the beans, puts them into what is essentially an oven. Right? There's not a fire. It's being powered.
There is a fire. There's flames.
Actual flames.
Look right here.
Okay.
Like, look,
like
right
gas. Yeah. Okay.
So if you look barrel this way, you go like. Oh, I see. Okay. I don't know. There's three rows of. There you go. Of burners in there. There's a drum that's rotating. So this is the center. So this is the center. There's a shaft here, a drum that's rotating around. There's flames underneath it. On the back side of the drum, this same perforated metal is on the back side of the drum. And so as the beans are in this drum turning, there's air that's being pulled across pulled through the environment, the drum itself, and then it's evacuated out the front.
The hot air.
Yes.
The air that's heated is what's actually, it's not the flame down here that each bean, like once it hits the bottom, is being heated up real quick. And
so conduction is what you're talking about. Is the surface of the drum cooking the bean like a frying pan? Yes, because the drum's hot. So it's cooking the bean. But there's also this massive amount of convection going on, which is, there's like a fan. There's a fan on the back of the roaster that's pulling air. And that fan is connected through a tube to the front of this drum. So as that fan is pulling air, it's like moving it through this drum and pulling air. So you have like, this is an older machine, so your fan doesn't have any variable speed mechanism. I control the airflow in my environment with this damper. So I essentially am like, it's like a flue. I'm either closing it or opening it. But your airflow and what's occurring inside of this drum is so huge to what ends up being in the cup. How is flavor affected? So you have like conduction, which is just simply heat on the frying pan, heat on the drum itself, cooking beans, but beans are being thrown into the air because in this drum you have big blades that are in the drum and just like throwing them in the air, and there's air being blown across. So that is like a major amount of how things are being cooked. So if that's how things are being cooked in here, then you got to ask yourself, like, how fast is that air moving? How hot is that air? How fast is the drum spinning that's throwing the beans? because them being thrown really fast throughout, like just the whole time, they're like flying through the air faster than like ones that are getting like folded over.
Like a marshmallow, you're just spinning the marshmallow, but like, you know, really far away from the flame.
You're like whipping it across.
Yeah, it doesn't really accomplish much,
like,
right?
Yeah,
you got to kind of get the perfect.
Exactly, it doesn't accomplish much, and this is a super important thing about roasting that I don't think people think through. Your flame becomes less efficient with more air. I can turn this thing to max out my flame, and I open up my air all the way. You just made all of your flame become way less efficient. So like, if I were to, let's say, I've got my airflow at 50%, and I'm gonna just totally drop the flame right now. Sorry, they're talking to me. I wanna. My air is at 50% and my flame is at 4 inches. Okay, and I need to make a major adjustment and have things slow down in the roasting process. I could open up the airflow, or I could turn the flame down. Both of those are doing the same thing. Opening up the airflow, though, you're speeding up the air that is occurring inside of the drum. You're speeding up the air, which kind of makes you think this is going to... Sorry, dude. That's it right there. And it took me a long time to understand that speeding up the airflow is the equivalent of turning down the flame. They're going to do the same thing. I am taking the power out of this environment, out of the arrangement of... I just think of it as an environment which has airflow and heat. Yep. And the mass. Yep. So these are the things. Like, what are we doing? It's like, for you know, within the context of like a computer and a data logging software, roasters are trained to think in terms of time, in terms of temperature, and in terms of rate of rise. Like what is the rate of rise of the temperature? How fast is the speed of your temperature increasing? Okay. When I'm roasting, I'm not saying I'm not thinking about the rate of rise. That's a part of it. But what is behind the rate of rise is a movement of energy. How do I explain the rate of rise? I explain the rate of rise by telling you about the energetic movement that's occurring. So let's talk about the energy. What are the factors of energy, of thinking about that part of the roast? Okay, well, the factors in that are this environment that I'm talking about. You have mass, you have airflow, and you have heat. And so then you start tinkering with those as I'm going to manipulate those things, and I'm going to roast. I'm going to like understand those tools versus understanding time and temperature and rate of rise, and be like, I need to make more time. This has to be like, I need to have my rate of rise needs to go faster here, or I have to go quicker in my roast, or make it longer, or I need to have the temperature be hotter. Like that, those are a certain set of tools, but what those tools are tinkering with is energy. And so then if you go past that part and get down deeper, you go with energy. So how are we affecting the energy of this environment? Through your airflow. Your airflow is so paramount to what is occurring in the, like, I can't even tell you. It's body, it's acidity, it's sweetness, it's everything. Airflow with your flame over the beans, which have this amount of mass in a drum that's this capacity. You really have to like take your energy and put it into, take your own focus, take your own skill and apply it to the concept of understanding the environment. And I'm kind of like, the environment is everything, dude. Like, the environment is everything. It is the transfer of energy, and it is like dictating the whole deal. And to have your skill around that environmental exchange, is the work of roasting. But how things are set up right now, like the norm is to just because things are automated, because, you know, essentially like standing behind a roaster and roasting the same thing over and over is a non-desired job.
Yeah.
We're trying to automate everything because they're trying to make everything consistent. We're like, okay, things have to be consistent. Okay, how do we do that? We make a digital profile on the computer screen. Okay, how do we do that? We set up a couple thermocouples, have an analog to digital transformer that can speak to a computer. Okay, cool. So now the computer is doing all of the synthesis of the data. It's collecting the data and it's synthesizing it and it's putting in this format for you, the roaster, to look at. Okay, so then you, the roaster, are just...
You're no longer the roaster.
Yeah.
The computer is the roaster.
Yeah.
You are the
operator,
filler-upper.
Yeah.
I mean, you are a tool in the roaster.
To fill the hopper, to put the beans in. Like,
if the computer had arms and could like dump it in,
yes,
you know, it would do it. But you're like you're a physical laborer helping the computer roaster accomplish its task.
Yes. And you're taking...
Which has a human behind it.
Yeah, but you're trying to take the human out of it.
Yeah.
The goal is, I don't want that human to have a special touch, because then what happens when the next human shows up? And then they aren't going to have the same exact way that guy did it, so we got a problem. Take the human out. And just... So when you go to the most automated systems of roasting, you have a human who cuts a bag open and it falls into a hopper. And then you push a button and it vacuums it up, puts it in here. You push a button and everything becomes automated. Like, so much of the coffee, and I'm talking about specialty coffee, I'm not talking about commercial. For sure, commodity and commercial coffee is all automated as much as humanly possible with the biggest drums that you can buy. Like, that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
But when you go down that trail and you're like, this now is a job that, or it's daily work that like nobody really wants to do. You're not like engaged. You're like pushing a start button and doing this. So like the most sought after job as a roaster is to be a head roaster. Why? Well, because you're the person who gets to dictate the profile.
Yeah.
Which
program the computer.
Exactly. Yeah. You're programming the computer's like screen to be like, this is the profile that I want on that screen for this coffee. Well, why is that a good job? Well, that's the best part, because you're the only one who gets to create for just a couple batches. Yeah. You get to tinker around with this new coffee and say, this is the way we want to make this one taste. Right. Okay, well, that is like such a tiny little part of the job. Yeah. It's like microscopic. Yeah. And then the daily production people, there is a joy and an enjoyment of learning just how to operate the machine. Like when you first learn how to drive a car, you're like, gas, brake, honk, honk, great, drive, park. Like this is like, holy crap, like this is very exciting. Yeah. But at some point at which you're like, all right, I got it. And you kind of want to like go race the machine. You want to like see what this puppy can, I don't know. You're like, you want to take the machine and be like, I know how to drive now. Yeah. Let's drive. Let's like, so engaging as a driver to the machine, but it's like, the metaphors around roasting are always fall flat, because it is sort of like driving a car, but like this isn't a race. It's sort of like music, but you taste it instead of listening to it. It's you just like have these metaphors around it. It's like there's a joy in learning how to drive the machine, but once you are like, no, I know how to, especially as they make the machine simpler and simpler and simpler to operate. Yeah. You just push the button. You're like, yeah, man. I mean, I'll talk to roasters who are at very successful roasting places, and I'm kind of like asking them about how they like the machine they're on or whatever, just chatting with them about roasting. And they're just like, I mean, pretty much I'm just filling the hopper. You know, I'm just like, oh, that sucks so bad. It sucks so bad, man. I'm like, don't just fill the hopper, like tinker. Yeah, no, it's just, I just fill the hopper, I push start, just roast it. It's like, kills me.
Then they're in a job, then they're not in a vocation where they're being human, they're checking in for a job.
Checking in for a job, showing up. And it's like a cool job. You know, they're like, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I'm like, that's good. I'm glad you feel that. Yeah. But like, I don't know. I want to engage with it differently, you know? Yeah. Okay, let me grab the last batch here. That was a Burundi. We're going to do low temp guat.
I'll be right back. Now, for you, like at this point, the beans are cooling.
Yeah.
Burundi, like, country of origin, the temp that you've, roasted them at. What is your now like expectation? Are you even thinking about like how this is gonna taste?
Yeah.
And you have some kind of range of expectation? So because of something that happened in the process, your expectations have been lowered in some way or raised? Like,
Well, okay. When I go to roast, I start with an idea of what am I wanting to do. Okay, which that idea comes from past experiences of either the specific bean or the process or the last roast of this coffee that I had and what it tasted like. So I have some adjustments that I'm wanting to make, or I'm like, I really like that last one. I want to try to find that spot again, and like maybe I can make it a little bit better, But there's some thought going into it ahead of time.
You do have some sweet spot that you're trying to hit.
Yeah, or a thing I'm trying to find out.
Yeah.
So it could be a new bean, and I'm like, all right, I did like, let's just say it's a washed Costa Rica. Okay, I've done a handful of low temp batches. I have found the high temps really are rewarding. Slow batch, tons of mass, low heat. Man, get to that high roast temperature that the 424 for me is pretty high. People roast like 460, okay, but 424 very high for me. 425, maybe I could imagine a 426, okay, but I get there. Those flavors. This bean is totally this is the bean that you drank last week or on Monday. On Monday, you're drinking that high temp Costa Rica that you're like, this is a good cup of coffee. All right, same bean. Low temp roasts. I've done a handful of different batches, and I'm still like, like I'm just gathering information. I'm roasting in ways that I know are going to taste good. I know I'm not like just botching.
You're going to waste the batch.
Yeah, no, it's like, but I'm going to like roast it this way. I'm going to roast it that way, and I like, drink it, and then I try it again. I drink that one. I'm like, okay, and I'm essentially like putting out feelers to find the edge of that bean. Like, what am I dealing with here? Like, what is this? It's like 3D modeling the space, like of what does the bean have in it? And then you kind of find like, okay, like I don't really care for this set of flavors, but like the next guy might love this set of flavors. That's where it's like, it's art, it's all taste. It doesn't, it's just kind of like, there's nothing objective. I love it. I love this. I can get this coffee to kind of be in this neighborhood of flavors. Okay, so then I start honing in on my roast, and I'm like, okay, and there's like, okay, I like this near side of this.
Yeah.
So then I'm gonna start. So it's always exploratory for me, like when I'm roasting, and so I start with the question.
If it weren't exploratory, and if it became, I know exactly what I'm going to get doing it this way, then now you're going into the machine. Right. So like if it stops becoming exploratory, or where there are dimensions that you can learn about the bean at different,
then it can it could become like a machine. It can also be like, I don't know. I mean, this sounds really corny, okay? But it can be like meditative. I don't have to like. I'm not exploring. I'm executing an emotion, an act. You know.
Yeah.
So I could now, like, truly, the part where things become a machine or machine-like in the way that I am saying I don't want anything to do with, is when you are not physically controlling. So like think about like rote activities like driving. It's like, am I exploring when I'm driving down to Cedar Falls? It's like, no, man, I'm just on 218 and I'm just driving. But we all know the joy of like a road trip and like being on a freeway in open space, and you're not driving it. You're just like, you're there and you're doing this activity that you're physically controlling, but you're like in it. So as long as I'm not handing my controls over, as long as I'm not handing the work over to the machine, even if I'm saying like I will roast a lot of espresso, okay? And I have this one bean that I like to roast a couple different ways and make a blend, and that's my espresso. And for my high temp espresso, I roast a lot of it, and every single week I'm roasting batches and batches. And this is a bean that I know in and out and have known and been around for a very long time. It's kind of like, I'm not trying to explore, but to be able to like get in the car and start to drive and be like, yep, I know this drive and I'm here, and I'm not like engaging with it in an exploring way. There's still value because I'm
accomplishing something that has taken a certain amount of trial and error to kind of arrive at.
What were you thinking that I was going to say?
Well, instead of
direction
being on a freeway in a different state that you've never, on a freeway you've never traveled before, getting off the freeway, taking the same car onto a gravel road, and finding out what it's like to do 60 on a gravel road with a rear-wheel drive truck.
See, that's
and now you're saying like, okay, here's this doesn't happen on the freeway,
right?
In kind of a fun way,
and you're finding the edges of what you can do. Yeah. And so that's where the machine part of this thing is real. So like, if with that metaphor, I'd be like, okay, I'm on my same machine. I'm gonna try something really different. Like, I'm gonna take this bean that I know really well. I'm gonna try to roast it in that way that I know, like a 422 finish roast temperature. But I'm gonna totally change the mass. Instead of doing 23 pounds, I'm gonna do 5 pounds. And I know the bean and I know the roaster, but I'm about to jump onto a gravel road and see if I can get this thing to, what does it do? How does it? But it still becomes exploratory where like, there's, I was talking to this one roaster and he was like, kind of like, don't you get so tired of, like, he's like, if I was like honing in on every batch like that, like I would be totally exhausted of doing that, And I'm like, yeah, I see what you're saying. I get why you could feel that way. It's not how I feel. Because I am sort of like, don't you get so tired of doing the same batch every time? That's my question. Is like, I did that. I roasted for these companies where I'm just doing the same thing every single time. And that is like soul crushing to me, where this having to be present is the thing that and he's like, dude, if I had to be present for every batch, I would hate this, So it's so,
that is interesting.
It's like, I was, all right, so I'm trying to write this roasting book, okay? And I'm like in it trying to write these different metaphors of trying to explain, what I think that like one of the most like accurate metaphors to roasting is like, imagine you have a field, okay? And you're gonna pick up a rock and you're gonna walk out to a specific spot in the field and like put it there. Like, that is the closest physical the metaphor of what is physically occurring. And where you put that rock will dictate the flavor. Okay, so you're gonna do this activity where you pick up this rock and you move it over and you drop it, and then you're like, and now I will drink. And you're like, huh, okay. And you go back to the edge of the field, pick up a rock again, and like move it over and bring it to a different spot and drop it
slightly more in the sun or something. Or
from
a higher up distance. Like, so let's see
how far did I drop it? How quick did I get to that spot? Did I drag it? Did I take it and run it and throw it? All of the actual physical moving of this rock to the spot, because the near spot in the field tastes different from the far spot. The sides, you have boundaries, and how quick did I get there? How slow did I get there? Did I roll it? Did I like launch it? Like all of the physical moving of this rock results in a different flavor. Where does it land in the field? Different flavor.
And the rock parable works because the first thing people are going to think is, well, you actually really can't change very much because a rock is so inanimate. There's no dimension to a rock. If there's one thing in the universe that does not have the ability to change, it's a rock.
Why even think about it?
Why even, it's going to be the same thing every time.
Rock.
It's a rock.
Dude.
Which is kind of how you're trying to get people away from thinking about coffee beans and the monotonous sliver of flavor you're going to experience every time, where it's basically just a hot liquid, and that you're fine with that. I'm willing to pay $2 for hot liquid to like actually, you know how you think a rock
you move the rock.
You'd be surprised how much things can change.
Amen, dude. That is it, dude. And it is like, you're totally grasping it, because you're taking this thing that we just check out of. We check out of it. And they're like, you don't need to be checked in, dude. You're moving a rock across the field. It's like, no. It's not. It really is like, the flavor is so dictated according to how we move the rock across the field. Like, it's a completely different thing. Yeah, so I'm trying to like pull this, I'm trying to pull that like as a metaphor of like, I think this is, so to bring it, what I love about it all is that you're having these like concepts and experiences, and you're having to like then bring it down to a production level. So I'm not just like, here's an abstract way of thinking about coffee. I'm being like, okay, so this is what I think is the most accurate metaphor to what this activity is. So how do we turn this metaphor into production principles? Like, how do we orient an operation around this concept of roasting? And this is where I want to say, you know, I'll say this to people, and unless they're coffee roasters, and unless that coffee roaster is, we're getting really into the weeds, unless that is occurring, when I make statements about like, oh, we're doing things in a very unique way and we operate, people are just like, yeah, I'm sure you feel that way. Like, I'm sure you think everything you're doing is special little snowflake, but like, you're just roasting coffee.
Well, and that's because the marketing surrounding free trade and farm, you know, putting a picture of a farmer and the farmer's family on the packaging. It's like, well, that's it. That's what I'm going for. I can see the farmer.
Yes.
Or the picture of the farm, fake farm on the milk gallon. People are bypassing and willing to say, oh, I'm getting the farmer's milk in the same way that anyone would get milk from a farmer.
Yeah.
The marketing has a lot of people who think they're getting free trade. The farmer is being taken care of. When not necessarily.
It's not really true. And and everybody, I don't know. I mean, I think that's even why I stayed away from talking about farmers and farming and like all of that direct trade stuff, because it's kind of like, first of all, that's like, the market is so saturated with that message. But second of all, like, it's like so easily false. It's so commonly false that like, as a roaster, you're getting like, I could get a marketing package from my coffee broker that has all the pictures and all the stuff that I can be like, hey, like, you know, look at the farmer, and if you is the farmer, or it's a farmer from that co-op. Like, I'm not saying that stuff is pretend, but it's all towards the end of having somebody feel connected in a way that isn't real. They're not actually connected. And
so the minute you actually do that in a way that is real, it will be devalued or not appreciated by the consumer, because they assume it's marketing materials from the ad agency. So I've always wanted you to put pictures up of these farmers in Guatemala where you've stayed at the farm. And the minute you put up a picture of a Guatemalan farmer in the field with a handful of the cherries, it's like, well, that's just turned into marketing materials. It's totally devalued of the realness
of it. And that the value that is actually there, and this is the thing that is so, I care about this so much that I don't want to put it on a picture on the wall, because the value of what this is we actually can take care of each other. We can actually provide material security to each other through this interaction. And that is so for real. I feel it because my family lives by this work, and this work is the same stuff that provides for these families who are growing. We are working together. They are making the best product they can make. I am making the best product that I can make of the material that they gave me, and we're holding each other up.
Yeah.
And we're holding each other up within community. Like, it is so for real, and that value is so important that they like turn it into this thing which feels shisty. It feels like, this is gross. Why are we trying to do that? We're like, the difference and the thing that's going on there is totally for real, but I want it to be real. So for me, instead of having a picture of this farmer, I would like to have a real work swap with people who work for me here and the farm that it comes from. I want to have Guatemalans from this farm who would like to come to the States and learn what it is that is, what do I do here? How do we sell it? What are we talking about with our customers? And that, let's say that guy is a guy who works at a farm and does the wet mill. Okay, and he comes here and works for 6 months and learns what we do, which will inform what he does back home when he goes back home. I can pay him well, I can give him a spot to be, give him a community to be a part of, and he has this cross-cultural experience. Yeah. And the people who come in here don't have some picture, marketed picture on the wall. They have this man here. Yeah. And it's a real interaction. And somebody who works here for us goes and is at the mill. Yeah. And sees the farm and lives in this other country, and like, that is what I want. But the whole thing of like, the true value of these relationships are real, and so for real that I feel like it's like taking away, like you were saying, like the second you put it up there, you like somehow devalued the reality of what it is. And that I agree with through and through. And like, the relationships are real, and like, I know that I can tell people, hey, you know, we get all these beans come from this farm, and these beans, and like, everything's fully traceable and all this stuff. I think the path that like, and this is probably 12 years ago when I started like wanting to do my own roasting thing. Ruth and I were sitting there talking. We lived in a, you know, it's very hip to be like, oh, we lived in a tiny house, which is true. It was tiny, but it was a trailer. It's like a trailer house. We wanted to live in a tiny house. I was building them, but like, I then realized, like, you know what? Tiny house living has been going on for quite a while. They're called trailers. There's an entire there's an entire industry built around building and supporting these homes. Yeah. So
that people can afford, you know,
that you can afford.
Not a huge footprint.
No huge footprint. Very simple. Like, it was so much fun. So we had our oldest 2 kids. We lived in this trailer house, and we would roast in the Dietrich, the small roaster. I had built a tiny house, had it in the like a 10 by 12 tiny house, put it in the yard, and put the little roaster, bought it and put it out there. And we're like roasting coffee and shipping out to family and friends. And we would talk, and it was like, I was so bothered about the kind of the deceit around how we're marketing, how we're presenting farmers. Like, I know that this picture of this little kid is not the kid. Like, he is not connected to these beans that we're roasting, but it sure is making all of these people who walk in this coffee shop have this feeling, okay? And it's all, yeah. It's just some stock photo of some kid who's not from the States, who's around clearly in the tropics. Okay, felt very disingenuous to me. So I was like, here's the deal. Let's be people's coffee roaster. The same thing that we have as a desire of consumers to be connected to where it comes from. That's why we have these photos of farmers.
Yeah.
We want to be connected. So I'm like, let's meet that need, but do it genuinely. Let's us be the roast. I can tell you honestly, I'm your roaster. This is where they've come from. I made these for you. We did this work. I'm putting love into this. Here you go, household. It's the same. I'm giving the customer the same thing that you want by me being like, I'm not here, I don't even roast, but this farmer made this for you. Like, you have the feeling of connection. Well, I can honestly, with authenticity, be that to a customer. Yeah. But I have to we have to become, that farmer is a character in the story. Yeah. The barista is a character in the story. If you're into coffee, you know those characters. And both of those people make your coffee. You go to the coffee shop, you know your barista, and they made it, you're like, this is amazing. Thanks, You have a picture of a farmer, they made your coffee. Nobody even knows what roasting is. It's like there's some awareness now, but when I started roasting for a profession, people would be like, what do you do for work? I'm like, oh, I roast coffee. They're like, what? I roast coffee. That's a job? That you can do? That's a job? Yes, it's a job. What is coffee it's not even that.
Unknown character.
It's no character. This is not even a part of the story. Yeah. There's no character. So it's okay, we kind of have to make this character to people. Hey, I'm a coffee roaster. This is what coffee roasting is. Yeah. We are making a product that we love for you to have in your household. And so it's let's just make this thing where we're meeting that desire that people have, which I think is real and good, and meeting it with honestly meeting it, not tricking, no marketing, and let's just do it. Let's just let's make that thing into, and that's where I feel whatever this thing is that we do, roasting, have a little shop, selling beans to people, sell to households, put tons of effort into where we get our coffee from. Every batch that I throw, I'm present to it. It's very simple, but it is the exact inverse of what is occurring. Yeah. And this task that I'm doing every single day, that me and my wife do, that we live off of and that we're connected to, all these different countries and all these people in our community, I am saying this is such an amazing role to have. Yeah. And I would really like other people who are already doing this. It's if you want to do roasting, if you like this act, it's do it like this. It is so rewarding and it is so meaningful and so connected to people and so positive in my daily life,
yeah.
That I just want to have people become aware it's an option.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it this way.
Yeah.
Do it in your own way. But you can do it exactly opposite of how
Yeah. That's great.
Hey, thanks for hanging out with Roasted today.
It's great.
When you come in here this
Each of the three were
yeah.
Oh, sorry. You're gonna have to cut it out after the I thought that
yeah.
I thought now you're just kind of talking to me.
I am saying thanks for being here.
Yeah, that was great.
And when you come in later today, we'll have these up on the table.
Yeah.
So
these that were just roasted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Two of them? All three?
Two of the three. One of them will go to TJ, and two of them will be up on the table. Amazing. George.
Oh, I was going to George.
I know, I stole it.